Real News Radio. True, honest, and not fake news.
Now, we're going to start this block of real news, your honest, true, and not fake news of Penn State. Starting today with Rylie Cooper. How's it going, Rylie?
Pretty good.
Rylie Cooper is a freshman majoring in international politics who's running to become a member of the State College Borough Council. Now, before I get any further, what exactly is that? Because I'm not quite aware of that.
So the State College Borough Council is actually the government that runs the State College Borough. So you have 7 members of council plus the mayor, and the council members vote on all of the ordinances that are passed within the borough. So like the zoning ordinances, the different resolutions that you see going on, and they're the ones who manage the budget and take care of pretty much everything in the town.
Okay. Very important position, definitely. And what's interesting about your run that I didn't know is that the last student to actually get a seat on the Borough Council was Dean Phillips way back in 1973. He served there for more than 3 years as an undergraduate student. So if you win, it's a very historic win, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. The last time any student sat on Borough Council, Princess Diana was still alive.
Oh, wow.
Nixon was starting impeachment trials. Ford had just taken office. So it's been quite some time since there's really been any student representation on Borough Council.
So why did you decide to run for this? Because obviously not many people do this. Like, what was your main motivation for going for this?
So my main motivation was this sort of disconnect you see between the Penn State community, between the Penn State community and the downtown area and the surrounding areas that make up the borough. Because you see students who have their views and you see townspeople who have their views, but they're not communicating with each other.
Right.
And there's not a lot that's productively being done because there's a lack of communication.
So it's basically like Congress.
I mean, you could say that. We don't really want to cross over into other territory and communicate with each other.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Because I think that's actually a really good idea, because I don't know much about the local government, but it sounds like it's just like a lot of governments where there's a big disconnect between the people and the people in power, really.
Yeah, you do see a decent amount of disconnect, and what's happening is you see students coming and brigading specific meetings, but they're showing up at the end. When these resolutions are in their final stages, these bills are in their final stages, they're ready to pretty much be signed, voted on, passed almost unanimously, and then the students come and brigade the borough council and just make demands.
Okay.
Instead of coming into the early stages and trying to work with people. So I'm hoping that by running for borough council, I can encourage students to come out more to meetings, to come out more to just see what's going on in the community, because you can't brigade at the very end and just hope that things are going to get done your way.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Definitely get people more involved at the beginning. So with that said, do you have any major policies that you're pushing with this? Do you have any main things you want to get done other than bridging the gap?
Yeah, so I want to improve the quality of life for all residents. I want to hold property managers more accountable, because a lot of times you see rental properties that have just kind of been left to rot, and people are living there. Students come and go out of these properties, and they might be paying lower rent on these properties, but they're still not livable properties. So I'm hoping to hold property managers more accountable. Over the summer, a girl was on a roof and was electrocuted.
Oh, jeez.
Because no one really emphasized, hey, you can't go sit out on this roof. There wasn't a property manager making sure that the wires were too low, so that's why she was electrocuted. So it's a big safety issue, as well as just you shouldn't be living in a worn down property. You should be living in something that's high quality. That's high quality. That's definitely something that's actually livable and respectable. I also really want to focus on improving safety. I know that streetlights is something that's really big and a lot of other people are pushing, but you can't put streetlights in an alleyway. It's illegal unless you get the permission of the people who own the alleyways, because the people who own the property actually own the alleyways. Right. So that's a whole big legal issue. But what we could do is we have blue lights on campus, put more blue lights downtown so that people can feel safe and they can go and call if there is an emergency. And I'm also hoping to create an auxiliary police force like we have on campus to focus on student safety downtown, so that people aren't just immediately getting slammed with an underage or public drunkenness, but instead someone's there helping them get safely back to their dorm or safely back to their apartment or to the emergency room if need be.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense because, like, you know, it seems like half the school is in the dorms, half the school is, like, off campus. So you basically want more regulation on the living conditions of those areas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, like, I was reading online, like, another thing that you want to, I think it was on, like, an Onward State article that you were very pro-transgender. Do you have any policies specific to that?
Not specific to that. A lot of like restaurants downtown already have their own gender neutral bathrooms. Like you walk into Webster's and it's just use whichever bathroom you want because they're just a single bathroom. So it's like any other unisex bathroom. I don't have anything specific to that I like want to pass in the borough because there's not much as a borough that you can pass. Boroughs don't have as much power as people think they do. But I would definitely help with lobbying at the state level. There's hate crime laws that are currently being worked on to protect the LGBT community because currently they aren't considered a protected class at the state level. But at the borough level, they have protections right now.
Do those protections apply to the campus too?
Those protections do not necessarily apply to the campus.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been reading like a lot like Trump recently there was like Obama's push to have like transgender rights and that didn't go through, so they sort of discarded it and left up to the states. So obviously I guess you could say that's happening more at the local level. Anyway, cause how long have you been campaigning? Like, has this been pretty long so far?
So our campaign started with the filing of petitions back in February.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So to get on the ballot in the first place, you have to go around with a petition. For borough council, it's sort of like with UPUA.
Right.
People go around with petitions. You have to sign it. So for like local elections for borough council, I only needed 10 signatures, but they had to be 10 registered Democrats within the borough. So that made it a little bit harder because you have people who like might be your friends, might be registered Democrats, but they live like out past the borough, like out past College Heights area. So there's always the chance that someone's signature is going to get kicked. So our goal was 30 and I succeeded with getting that goal. And so once I filed the petitions, I had to get them notarized, of course. Once I filed the petitions, I was officially on the ballot and then campaigns kind of kicked off.
Okay. So are you on like a Democratic ticket then?
Yeah, I am on the Democratic ticket because PA does have close primaries. I can't cross-file, so I am on the Democratic ticket, but Republicans can also write me in on that side. If they do feel strongly about student issues, I do encourage them to write me in. And independents, it's a tricky situation.
They can pick either side.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation for independents with PA close primaries. So
yeah, that's always complicated. Like when I wanted to be an independent, but I had to register with a party so I could vote because, you know, the way like I said, it's close primary here, so I actually have some say. So it's a complicated process, but also like, so you said you're a Democrat. Have you had like a history of being involved with college Democrats, you know, stuff like that? Has that like helped you in this if you have been involved?
So I am somewhat involved in Democrats. I've been more involved in College Progressives of Penn State, which is a new club here on campus.
And that was formerly Students for Sanders, right?
Yeah, it was sort of like the aftermath of Students for Sanders. But now, instead of focusing on the Bernie Sanders campaign, focusing on progressive values in general. And then I actually got a fellowship with the PA coordinated campaign in the fall for Hillary Clinton and then all of the Democrats up and down the ticket for Pennsylvania. So I got to work closely with a couple of more local candidates, like Melody Fleck was one that I had went door to door with a couple of times. So that definitely helped a lot.
So you definitely had a lot of experience just in like this past election cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know like quite a few friends that have, you know, on both sides, like campaign for Trump, campaign for Clinton, and they'd be going out knocking on doors like every day. Like it was, you know, for down ballot too. So it's, you know, I think that's good. Like anybody who wants to get involved in politics, you know, definitely be a door knocker because, you know, I've heard so many stories of the people you knock on and the reactions you get. And it builds like a, you know, greater, not only respect for being a door knocker, but for these campaigns as a whole. So, you know, I think, you know, it's great to do that type of experience. So, like you say, you've done it since February. You've already, been working on this. Like, what's been your greatest challenge doing this? Because obviously, not no offense, but not many people know about this election. Like, I didn't know about till I got the email saying that you were running for this position. I learned a lot from it, which I think was great. But, is that like a challenge trying to get people to know how this? Are you doing that? Like, overall, they're like, what is the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is definitely awareness. Not a lot of students it's not that they don't care about elections, but local elections just aren't as publicized as the fall election. Like the presidential election had a lot more traction. I mean, obviously this year it was definitely quite a heated election that drew a lot of attention, but local elections don't seem to draw as much steam, as much attention, and it's hard to get students motivated about voting in general. Just young people in general, it's hard to motivate to vote unless they've already formed that habit. So it's been hard to make people aware, but we've been storming on social media. We've just been talking to people, going to as many events as we can. Now that UPUA elections are done, and that's sort of
that cycle's done.
Yeah. So now it's easier for me to get out to people. Like before UPUA elections were over, people would keep asking me, "Oh, is this for UPUA?" And I have to be like, "No, this is for Borough Council." And then you get the question, "Well, what's Borough Council?" Yeah. So awareness has been a big issue that we've been trying to overcome.
Yeah, I understand because I didn't even know there was a Borough Council. So, but at least if anything, because you're connecting with the students more, which is your goal. So you're definitely accomplishing that, even though you haven't even gotten in there yet. So. Definitely expand the base there, because I read online actually only like in these like regular cycles for borough council, only about 4% of even the borough actually votes for this. So do you like who's your rival? There's a Republican ticket, right?
There's a Republican ticket, but it only has 2 candidates as of now. I don't actually consider any of the Republican candidates my rival. I don't really consider any of the candidates rivals to me, because I do feel like a lot of them would be good fits for council. It's just that we're all trying to represent like different parts of like the constituency.
Right.
So I don't view anyone as like my true rival per se.
So just so I make sure it's clear, are you running then against people on the Democratic side?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no other students that are running on that ticket?
There's a graduate student running on the ticket, but at the same time, the graduate student world and the graduate student needs are totally different from the needs of an undergraduate student. So I think it would be great to see both of us elected to Borough Council, because there are 3 seats open, so that graduate students get representation as well as undergraduates.
So is that what you're trying to separate yourself from the candidates? Because obviously in a type of race like this, you got to separate yourself from the pack. That's what, like, for instance, Bernie Sanders did by being, anti-establishment, Trump being anti-establishment too. Are you trying to separate yourself from the pack, in that way?
I definitely am. I'm trying to separate myself in the way of just like showing, even though I am young, I am very opinionated. I have a decent amount of experience, and I have a lot of ideas that I'd love to bring to the table. So I'm hoping that my fresh ideas and my age really separate me and make me stand out from everyone else.
Okay. One major thing I really want to touch on when I was researching for this, Bug Pack apparently didn't endorse you. First of all, I'm still confused. What is Bug Pack? I found out how they got their name, but like, what are they exactly?
So Bug Pack is a pro-student pack that was started by the former president of GPSA, the Graduate and Professional Student Association, and the former president of UPUA, which is the undergraduate student government. And it was basically to endorse candidates that they deemed to be pro-student. But this had been something that they've been working on behind closed doors for, they said, 6 months. Like, you can go online to the Underground article and read their statements on it. I think Bug Pack is a good idea. I think endorsing pro-student candidates in local government races is a great idea. The thing that troubled me is they didn't get outside student input.
Right.
And they didn't even reach out to me, the student candidate running, to say, hey, we'd love to sit down with you and talk about your platform. Even if it wouldn't have like resulted in an endorsement, the fact that they still didn't reach out to the student running, it's kind of troubling to me, because if they aren't going to reach out to the student candidate running if they aren't going to reach out for other student input, are they ever going to reach out for other student input?
Right.
Because just because they say that they're pro-student, it doesn't necessarily mean that they represent all student interests, because there are a lot of students who felt left out of this bug pack message. And even the community members, they felt kind of ambushed by this.
Yeah, I understand that, because like I was reading into it, and like they were saying that UPUA does not endorse candidates in general. Bug pack, which is, like you said, is like kind of a part of them, but kind of isn't. Didn't endorse you, but like you said, they're kind of like for the students. It sounds like, and they didn't endorse you, which kind of surprised me. So is that on a policy basis, or just they didn't feel like it, or?
So if you would look at the Underground article, there are specific quotes, and I don't remember them, so I'm gonna not quote.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna quote them like word for word or anything. But when they sat down and interviewed Terry Ford and asked him why he didn't endorse me, he said it was because he felt that I lacked the state college experience that I needed to be on borough council, which is kind of funny to me, because I actually grew up an hour south of here, and my mom lives right outside the borough. My parents are separated, so I lived with my dad, but my mom lives in Overlook Heights, which is right outside of that line where the borough boundaries are. And most of my family members have went to Penn State, so to say I'm not a part of like the state college Penn State community is kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
But that was his argument. And then Kevin Horn, the chair of Bug Pack, said that he felt I was more qualified than anyone except Evan Myers, currently on council. So it's odd to me that even though I'm more qualified than most of the people on council right now, I still couldn't get a meeting with them.
Yeah, because I was I was reading that. I read that article, and I was like really confused, because like you said, like they say it for students. They're saying you're not well experienced with that, and I'm like, well, you can make some other arguments, but that doesn't make sense. Just coming from my perspective, not really knowing policies about this type of stuff. So we're gonna be on here for about a couple more minutes. I'm gonna let my other guest in, but I just want to give you like a few minutes, just give one final sort of pitch to people, like, maybe why they should vote for you, what separates you from them. Because I noticed, like, building this conversation, that you're definitely, a student that's really trying to get this position, you're really trying hard. There's 3 positions for it, and, like, to get people more informed, to maybe understand them, like, what's your final pitch to the Penn State community?
So my final pitch to the Penn State community, students especially, make sure you apply for your absentee ballots now. Don't wait, because sometimes they can get lost in the mail and then you have to reapply. So make sure you apply for your absentee ballot now and mail it back in as soon as possible. The deadline to mail them back in is May 12th. That's the Friday before the primary election day. So you obviously want to mail it back in before you go home. Make sure you get it done before finals week so you don't have to stress out about it. And really think hard about who's going to actually represent the student community, who's going to sit down with you and listen to you and listen to what you have to say when you go to make these votes, because the job of the government is to listen to your problems and to try to solve them. They're not there to make decisions without your input, because you are their constituency, you are the people who put them in office.
Right.
So it's their duty to listen to what you have to say and take your input into consideration. So I really think that when you go and vote in this primary, you should think about who's actually going to listen to the students.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And I think, I'm just going to leave my final word in there. I thought that was great. But I've noticed that in a lot of governments, like general, that there's a huge disconnect between people, because, like, I've had my parents, like, whenever something they don't like, they immediately call up their congressman, like, call up their senator, call up this guy. So maybe you're going to get quite a few calls once you get elected, but hopefully not. Hopefully everything goes well. But, it's always going to be people love you and don't love you, but, that's always a hard job to take because of that reason. But, yeah, I think that's, definitely trying to get more connected with people, I think, is a great thing, especially being a Penn State student. I think that's, definitely very unique, and if you win, it's definitely a historic win. So we'll see how that turns out. When is the election, actually?
So the election is May 16th. That's 2 weeks after finals week. So unless you're here for Maymaster or you're just sticking around, you probably won't be here to vote. So please apply for your absentee ballots. Even if you're changing addresses for the summer, still apply for your absentee ballot because you'll be registered at your old address.
Okay.
So students obviously change addresses a lot. So like we saw the really big push for like voter registration with people with clipboards in the fall.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah, I was one of those people. Sorry guys.
No, it's okay.
But you'll still be registered at your old address, and unless like you already moved, you can't change your address on your voter registration. So I really encourage you to still fill out the absentee ballot application if you're moving for the summer, but you're still going to be here.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, Rylie. It was great having a conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We learned a lot from this. I think very informative. Back with Real News Radio, and I'm joined by two guests today. Mr. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty swell. How about yourself?
Pretty good. What we're going to talk about today is Syria, because that's obviously the big story of the week. And trigger warning, I'm going to give a pretty long rant on this, and then I'm going to let you probably rant, because this has obviously pushed a lot of buttons on people. So if you haven't kept up on the news, basically there was a chemical weapons attack in Syria. 75 men, women, children were killed in the attack. Trump met with Jordan's king right after that. He was on the same day or the day after, and he made a few comments saying, Assad's action cannot be tolerated. It's now my responsibility. Obviously, since it was Obama's, now it's his. And then Rex Tillerson came out and made some rather, I don't want to say conflicting, but a little confusing for some people. His messages he was saying, is basically saying that there's not going to be a war, but maybe a political removal of Assad. Maybe. We really don't know. But Thursday night, Trump surprised us all by launching 60 missiles, roughly, to hit the Syrian airbase where chemical weapons were supposedly believed to have been sent. 20 planes were destroyed. That number just came in today. And, I was shocked to see that happen. But like Trump said, he doesn't announce when he's going to do military action. It's, for him, it's all action, no talk. And when that happened, I've never seen the biggest freak out from the Trump base ever over Trump. It was extremely, extremely weird. His base literally split in half after that. To be clear, I personally am not crazy about these attacks, but I actually approve of it. I think it was smart. I think it set a precedent of strength because it was so hilarious. Trump being the troll he was, doing his 4D chess, he did this while he was eating dinner with China's president. Like, they were just eating, and, he launched, because he met with his team right beforehand. He goes to eat with China's president at dinner, and if you watch the video that's posted on the White House YouTube channel, you see him smile at the president, and he holds it for, 3 seconds. I'm like, that's the moment he's telling him, you do not realize what's happening right now. I thought it was hilarious, but kidding aside, this was a precedent of strength. That's the few words I'm going to sum this up as. Precedent of strength. He didn't, I don't know the casualty level. It could have been nothing. I don't know if anybody was really killed or wounded, but he just bombed an airbase. Simple airbase, simple runway, not really, it was really a fairly innocuous attack. There wasn't much. He didn't really bomb, the government's headquarters. But he's trying to send a message. I think that's why he did this. Now, many are on the Trump base are freaking out over this, which I said is the weirdest freak I've ever seen, are because they're super non-interventionists. They want to be totally isolated. A lot of libertarians are definitely on that side with this. But I don't want to get involved in all these countries either. But at the same time, I think he took advantage of this opportunity. He took advantage of a time when he could strike without getting involved, really, and send a message that, hey, I'm drawing a red line in the sand, and I mean it. I'm going to make action. If I say I'm going to do action, I'm going to do action. Because this hasn't been his first 100 days yet. He's still in that first, I think he's around 70 right now. He's not completed 100 days. He's already in his first stretch of the presidency set a big, powerful, strong tone that Obama didn't set. Obama did nothing for 8 years after thousands were killed. 75 people were killed in a Trump's few days, he bombed them. That's the difference that we're seeing. It's sending the message to not only Assad, but to China, to Iran, to North Korea. Don't F with us. That's what it is. Don't screw with us. Don't F with us. That's basically the message. I think they all got it. And it also proves he's not Putin's puppet. Yes, he did. People are like, oh, but he warned the Russians. Yeah, you're not going to bomb the base and kill the second greatest superpower, biggest superpower in the world. No, of course he's going to warn them. He doesn't want to start war. That's just proof right there. He doesn't want to start World War III. And he's not Putin's puppet because Putin condemned this. He doesn't like this at all. If he was with the Russians and in bed with Putin like everybody thinks he's in this bromance, he wouldn't have done this. To me, it was a proactive action because he wanted a proactive action really to prevent any other conflict, any other threat against us. He doesn't want to get involved anywhere. And this kind of sets the bar, sets high, sets it strong, saying, don't screw with us. Don't do it, or we're going to strike back. Don't want to do it, but we will. And that's why he did this now, I think, because nothing really changes. Of course, Assad's going to have to spend a little bit of money, get more planes, but he's not killing like millions of people. And don't forget, Obama was bombing Syria. I mean, he was bombing ISIS, not really the government, but he was still bombing Syria. And there were civilians killing that. Again, World War III isn't going to happen. I saw so many people freak out on social media. I saw Paul Joseph Watson, Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, Lawrence Sutherland too, I believe. All these, pro-Trump people, and Stefan Molyneux, that hated this. Paul even tweeted, I'm done with this. I'm off the Trump train. I was shocked to see that. He's kind of calmed down a bit now, but still, I was surprised to see that. But to me, this is more proactive for the safe zones, especially because then you can, you don't have to worry about Assad having 20 planes that could, attack it. Hopefully, they'd be dumb to do that to begin with. But let's say they do a chemical attack on there. Now they can't do it. He whacked all those planes out. Now he can start negotiation from a position of strength, get the safe zones, and make everyone happy. I'm going to say a couple of things real quick, then I'm going to have Alex speak. I know I've been speaking very long, but this is to me, I'm ranting really hard on this because it's baffled me how people have been freaking out. But they got to realize that Trump, he's not an ideologue. He's not this neocon. He's not this guy you can fit in this one label, this one category. And when he doesn't do it, I think people have a different perception of him that he is. And when he doesn't, it confuses them. They freak out. They're like, oh, he wasn't what we thought. Oh, he's flexible. Yeah, he is. He said, because he's a businessman. He's not a politician. He's a CEO first and foremost. He's a businessman. He realizes that when you get more information, when the environment changes, you have to adapt to that. You shouldn't be sticking to an ideology that's wrong for hundreds of years. You gotta change it in the first year, and you realize that, oh crap, it's actually not the case. I'm wrong. He wants to win, and you're gonna get tired of winning. That's what he wants. He wants to win. To me, people just are looking at us a little too simplistically. But there's also like sort of they're now investigating that Russians have possibly been involved in the chemical attacks. I mean, that would be really scary if that's the case. I don't really think that, but who knows? But the last thing I'm gonna say is that I think this is a good thing. I think he was looking at like any businessman, the costs and the benefits. He saw that the benefits outweighed the cost, so he went for the attack. It should be interesting to see how this plays out, because I think everybody's jumping to conclusions after it hadn't even been 24 hours when I saw some of our friends freaking out or some people online freaking out, and I was like, guys, let's just hold it on. Let's just wait a bit. These things take a while to develop and to evolve, or not evolve in some cases. So I think we should all wait. That's my initial reaction. I gave like a 7-minute rant, so I'm now going to hand over to Alex. Alex, what do you think of this?
Well, I think that this was the best option. I think this was the best option that Donald Trump had, given the circumstances of the conflict going on over there. On the one hand, if he did not do the attack, he may not have been his base may not have criticized him, but then you go and see the war hawks in Congress start
John
flipping
McCain.
out. And especially during the Gorsuch. Well, what's his name?
Gorsuch.
Gorsuch. Yes, sorry. I don't know how I'm going to pronounce his name. Gorsuch during his SCOTUS nomination, and that would have been the centerfold. But what Trump did was a brilliant political maneuver, because no one was talking about the Gorsuch nomination during that time period. They were talking about the Syrian attack.
Right.
And they were flipping out over that, so they didn't go. No, it went off without any real. It made like a fizzle in the news, but everyone else was caring about Syria. And you have to go, and Obama drew that line in the sand, and it was still the United States, and that's still our policy. Every 4 years, we can't just go and like rapidly change the way that we do things. We have to go and follow at least something of a path when we deal with one country, or else like every election cycle, it'll be a completely different person that they'd be dealing with.
Right.
So he kind of had to go and enforce that line in the sand that Obama touted.
True.
Because he's the leader of the United States, and you can't just go and renege on your deals.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is these Trump supporters who have just went so far to go and like attack their own fellow Trump supporters for following Trump. I've seen people light their
hats on fire. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This is one move. We are not at war with Russia. We just did an attack.
What, we're not?
like one attack like that. That's seriously. It's like a flash in the pan. It's nothing. And I don't even know if, like, personally, I don't know if it was a false flag or not. I'm not going to go and say yes or no if this was a false flag attack. But even if it was, they would have still, if Donald Trump didn't do anything, the left would have been like, oh, he's colluding with Putin, or else he would have made action. They would have criticized him for that. So even if it was a false flag attack, he'd either have to come up with indisputable proof that it was and somehow convince the entire United States that, or do action, or else he'd be called literally enabling Hitler because these guys are gassing their own people. And that's what we would hear. And then now, people just don't understand it. Like half of these Trump base, I don't even know if these are like real Trump supporters who are attacking Trump. Now these guys seem like they just were in it for the memes. Like they didn't actually care about Trump. And as soon as he was done getting elected, they were like Republican. They're more or less Republicans in names only. They're the crazy sect of like the super libertarians. Yeah. And that's what really upsets me. The libertarian philosophy, it's good on paper, but it just doesn't.
It's impractical.
Work. It's impractical. But these people, they've called me everything under their sun. They called me the human incarnation of a cuckoo bird. They've called me a baby boomer, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I've been labeled a baby boomer.
I didn't know you were that old. Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't know either. Apparently, I was an extra 40 years old, but
wow,
tell it to some people. And so I think what Trump did was necessary, and it sets a good precedent to to Xi Jinping in China, to
China,
where the North Korean guy is,
Kim Jong-un,
to the crazy Iranian dude. We're not Obama anymore. We're actually going to do something. We're going to enforce the law. And you know what? If the Syrians really didn't want to go and be attacked, then they shouldn't have signed treaties saying that they got rid of their chemical weapons, saying they wouldn't use chemical weapons, and then proceeding to use chemical weapons. It's against the Geneva Convention. They've had multiple treaties signed saying that they won't use it, them specifically, that they gave their their chemical weapons stockpile to the United Nations. So for them to do this, they violated a contract and they're paying the consequences. And all in all, it wasn't even that big of a deal. I think at most seven people died, and they were all military combatants. Yeah. So, it's nothing. It's an absolute flash in the pan. Whereas during the Obama presidency, we end up having a missile go fly off somewhere and hit a hospital and kill 50 innocent people. Yeah. So I don't see how people can go and criticize this. Was it the best? Was it the best thing he could have done? Was it a good thing? I mean, he was in the position where he had two options and both of them were bad. And, using his judgment, this was the least negative option. Sometimes you got to do that. If you get a porcupine quill stuck in you, sometimes it's better just go and push it all the way through and get it out without hitting a major organ than try ripping it out, because the barbs will hurt you more. So that's what's happening here. The quill The porcupine quill that hit Donald Trump was a Syrian war, and the only way to go and to get out of it would be to see it through to the end. Because if he just backs out now, it's going to affect our position politically across the entire Middle East, if not the entire world.
Yeah. I think it was good. I already forgot what you mentioned, Alex, like the false flag reports. Like there are people like Scott Adams. I think Rand Paul came out saying it's a false flag, and and Alex Jones I think was saying the same thing. Of course he was, but when I first heard that, I was because it didn't really make sense. Like why would Assad randomly bomb his own people, basically, or maybe mistakenly, after he's been winning so far? That's subjective how you could say winning, 'cause he's been winning the war against ISIS, but not necessarily winning, the battle he's out with his people, metaphorically. But at the same, I was suspicious. And I've always been suspicious when the government tells me this happened, that happened. I've always been skeptical. But this case, if you really think about it, we're applying rational, normal reasoning to a crazy man, a dictator. And if you everybody tries to do that with all these people. They try to apply it to Kim Jong-un. They try to apply it with him. And I don't think in all these cases you can do that. I think maybe, Assad, I don't think he's dumb. I think he's crazy, but I don't think he's dumb. And I think he does stuff, obviously, it's inhumane. But when he could have, theoretically, done this at a crazy time to deliberately make it look like it was the enemy. Because everybody jumped on that ship of why would he do it? There's no way he'd do this. Why would he do it now? It doesn't make sense. Well, maybe he's doing his own sort of version of 7D chess. It's a very disturbing version of 7D chess, that he's trying to kill his own people by making it look crazy, that he wouldn't be the one doing it. So I think that's definitely a case. But if you're not on our side with this, if you're a little confused, read Scott Adams' blog. He put a post there of 7 reasons why he sees the benefits he sees out of this, and they're really, really good reasons. And I think everyone should read that, look into that. It's a great one. But what's interesting, like you mentioned, the little bit of coverage with Gorsuch, there's also been very little coverage of the terrorist attacks. We had one on, I think it was Monday, was the one in St. Petersburg in the metro station, and then just today or the other day was the one in Sweden. Oh yeah, that was today, right? I think.
I don't really pay much attention. They're going on all the time in Europe.
Yeah.
And this is what happens
every
when
week
you have open borders to radical Islamic extremist countries. And you just let people like this come into your country.
Yeah.
That's why we don't. I mean, we had occasional terrorist attacks, but it's much less than they have in Europe. So I don't really know what we can do. But what really upsets me the most about this whole conflict is people are making Assad to be out like some sort of Christ-like figure.
It's really weird.
Assad is your friend. He fights for freedom. No, he's not. He's a terrible dictator. He's no better than Robert Mugabe or Saddam was. They're all terrible people.
Yeah.
Now, should we go and necessarily try to go and
remove him?
That's a separate discussion. But he's by no means a friend of the people. After Trump launched his strikes, people were changing their Facebook pictures to Donald Trump. People were sending out praise because finally somebody did something, and hopefully Assad got the message. Hopefully he doesn't do any more of these attacks, because this really, it'll hopefully just go in shock and be like, okay, we can't keep on doing this. So, and after the war, something needs to happen. I think he agreed. I read somewhere that he agreed after the war that he'll go and they'll have free elections. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
He might say it is. It's going to be like what happened, in any sort of dictator country where they have free elections. That 70% of the people are going to vote for him, even though none of them actually do. They're going to go and they're actually going to hack the elections in their countries.
And by Russian hackers. Well, that's why I always put in quotes free elections, because they're not really free. I remember when he won, it was he got 90% of the vote, 97%. I'm like, come on, not everybody would vote for him that much. And I don't even know if he had an opponent. I don't understand how their elections work now, but like you said, it's really bizarre that to see on the right, who always tries to be the good Christian, they're clutching their Bible in one hand, they're clutching their gun in the other, like, no more war, no more, fighting, but we don't want anybody that's gonna, kill kids or do, sarin gas. Like, so they're on that, like, that moral side of we don't want to send our kids to war, which I agree. I don't want to start war. It always leads to bad and worse conditions. But then they also always say, what he's doing is bad. And it's so bizarre to me to see his total 360-degree turn from Assad's a bad dude, but we got to leave him in because whatever we put in is going to be worse, to now Assad's actually fighting for freedom. Assad's actually a good guy. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Look, I mean, of course, like they say, they haven't proven these, sarin gas attacks were done by him, but he's been doing them. He has a history of it. He's a dictator. He's a sick guy. I mean, I don't understand it.
Well, another thing that really upsets me is like, we really don't want to go to war and stuff. Well, in the United States, we don't have a draft. If you really
Thankfully.
do not want to go and fight over there, you have all the power to determine, like, are you going to, I mean, yeah, you still got to go and pay a little bit for it, but you're not actually fighting and dying unless you're actually in the war.
Right.
Unless you go and volunteer for the Army or SEALs or Air Force or whatever. So, it's kind of on them. If you really don't want to die in Syria, you really don't have to join up to the military and do that. It's if you disagree with it,
Well, it's like George Carlin has a good bit on this about war, and like I can't say half because it's got so many explicit, words in it. But the one part I do remember when you mentioned that, he says like, how do we stop wars? Don't go to them. People don't volunteer. Don't go. Just don't. If the government doesn't have the troops, who are they going to send? Their kids? No. Are they going to send our kids? Yeah. If we don't go, it's not going to be a war. Now, I mean, of course, that's very simplistic, but he makes a simple point, which is that, people, I think, again, I don't want any wars or anything, but right now it's a voluntary system. Could a draft be put out there? Yeah. They can still do it, but they're never going to do it after Vietnam. They'd be nuts. Like, you saw the reaction then. If they did it today, we'd go crazy.
I would say the only way that draft would happen again would be if we had like an actual World War III scenario where we were invaded. But other than that, I don't think we were going to be going and drafting people to fight off in like, the Middle East or North Korea unless, we've been nuked.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get nuked,
oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine if we did get nuked, we'd probably have a lot more people too.
We would send 50 nukes at whoever sent them. That's the thing about nukes that people forget, is that everybody builds up their nuclear arsenal because that guy has it. That guy has it. That guy's got 10 nukes. Crap, I gotta get 20 nukes, because if you don't have any, they see you as weak and invadable. And I don't think they do, but let's say, for instance, North Korea, who's a crazy man, but he's not entirely dumb, but he's crazy. So that's a scary bit. But let's say Kim Jong-un sends a nuke onto the U.S. He knows that we'd nuke him back, that his country would be flatter than Las Vegas after that. It would be so empty, not a cockroach would be alive. It would just be gone. Does he want that? Does he want to be dead? No. So why is he going to fire nukes? I don't see that as happening. But like I said, if that did happen, you'd probably see a draft.
Well, I don't think North Korea would nuke the United States. They'd go nuke South Korea before they did the United States, because they're the people, by the time we would see them launching the nuke from like half a world away, and by the time that they actually get over here, we'd have it shot down, and then we'd be sending troops over there. Well, we'd probably just like withdraw our troops, and I don't know. We'd probably just go and nuke them into orbit, or just go and invade them. But either way, I don't think China would actually help them if they nuke the United States. Like, I mean, recently I heard that China was actually starting to get upset with the North Koreans because they've been renewing like artillery attacks or something against South Korea. I mean, they've been on and off at war for the past 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And they've just been increasing the amount of attacks they're doing. And how long is it going to really last?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even want to think about it. It'd just be crazy. That's all I can say, is that it would be absolutely crazy. Like, if we had a, like you said, it could last maybe a day. What it'll last months, weeks? Like, I don't know. It's a scary scenario, but it's probably one of the, if it were to happen, it'd be the craziest war ever because it'd be so unpredictable. So unpredictable.
I mean, North Korea right now, they kind of seem like the incarnation of George Orwell's 1984, just like a real country like that.
Yeah.
Because, they have the people so, like, just brainwashed over there. They get basically no food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only eat government propaganda. Although, the leftists might like it over there because, one, they're communists. And two, I heard from someone that they actually have legalized marijuana over there.
What?
So why don't we go and take all our, our leftists, our communists,
and put them over there.
Our socialists. Oh, we go send Bernie Sanders over there. He got 3 houses over here recently. So why doesn't he just get a vacation home in North Korea? Yeah. Just go and live over there, Yeah,
maybe the water's warmer over there, It's more radioactive, probably.
Oh, yeah, see, he'd really like it, too, because there's, like, no white people over here. So he would actually like that, because it seems like he loves every other, like, I don't know if they consider, like, Asian white, but because of the social justice hierarchy.
Yeah, they're not minorities anymore. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, like
they're not.
They're really not. Like I heard that the affirmative action, they've actually had to go. It's actually working against Asian American students.
Oh wow.
I mean,
yeah, I saw that on Tucker. There was a guy talking about that. It was a really crazy story. I'm gonna wrap up in a few seconds here, but I'm gonna give one final point about North Korea. Is that people forget how people are brainwashed there. How really, like you said, it's 1984 in reality there, and I'm gonna make a prediction right now. And I think it's big time. When we finally have to do something about that country, when that country finally gets liberated, which who knows if that's ever going to happen, if it does, we're going to uncover so many horrors, so many modern-day Holocaust things going on that it's going to scare people, that this was going on for the past 60 years, that country, I think, has been around a lot longer than World War II, and a lot longer than the Holocaust, and the scale of it is going to terrify people because they have literally concentration camps, modern-day concentration camps, where if you speak out against the government as a normal citizen, you're either shot on the spot, if you're lucky, or you're sent to those camps where you work for the rest of your life hoping you die because it's so terrible. There's so many torturous things done to you. It's just insane. Absolutely insane. But I don't want to end on a sad note, but sadly I have to because we're out of time for today. Thank you, Alex, for playing with all the stuff in the studio.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming on. We're going to sign off for today with Real News. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening.